Welcome to the Lawless Astrology channel. Today I am lucky enough to have my dear friend Kelly Chambers, who is known as the astrologer's daughter, and we're going to be looking at the astrological weekly weather for July 9th through the 16th. There's a lot of fireworks coming up, so you're going to have to brace yourself for that. But welcome, Kelly, and also welcome all of you. If you've not been here before, what we do on this channel is we look at how the cosmos can help us live a more peaceful life. And did I already say that you were a master astrologer trained by Stephen Forrest? Did I say that?
On this take, you didn't.
On this take, I did not. So let's just say that right now, that she has over 20 years experience. I'm going to put her information below in the description. So if you are interested in her reading, you can check her out. She's been featured on TV. Very cool. Entertainment Tonight, among other amazing people.
Very illustrious appearances. Tons of celebrities.
A lot of celeb stuff. She's been LA for a good portion of her life. So if you want to feel like a celebrity,
make you feel like a star.
Miss Astrologer's daughter is the person to go to. One point that I want to start with is that I've been doing a lot of readings for people, and a lot of the readings are people in transition and a lot of people not feeling like they know where they're going. And so I just want to say that that really is resonating right now with a lot of people, and I think that has a lot to do with what's going on with Saturn and Neptune in retrograde at this very last degrees of Pisces, so that we're all still feeling that. So just breathe in, breathe out. Watch some of my other videos. I do a whole video about the Saturn retrograde, and I have everyone's favorite Ronnie Pontiac coming up pretty soon.
Ronnie Pontiac can't lose.
Ronnie Pontiac cannot lose. So, okay. So, anything you want to add about that Saturn retrograde motion?
I could go into the supine twist all over again, but basically, yeah, what you said. It's in Pisces. And, Pisces.
Maybe you want to talk about the supine twist. I don't think anybody on my channel knows about that metaphor yet.
The supine twist.
Get on them.
Basically just a yogic pose where your hips go one way and your thorax goes another way. And it really, there's a release going on. You can, to get the most out of the pose, you kind of have to stick with it, right? It's kind of a test of endurance and of will. It's very, Saturnian words. And you can feel sort of a cathartic, emotional and sort of physical releasing, but it's very slow. And it can bring up tears, because it just is like these things that we hold on to, that we get so used to. And it gets almost like we become comfortable with the discomfort. And so at, Saturn and Neptune retrograde in Pisces, Pisces being the last sign of the zodiac, Pisces being about, universal consciousness, the end of cycles, highly, it's imaginative, it's creative, it's amorphous, it can be confusing, right? And so we can think of Saturn, a really hard planet, in retrograde. We're kind of getting the shadow of Pisces, right? We can feel kind of escapist, confused. Now, all of this it's not bad, right? We're actually I feel kind of like a collective purge, a collective transition. So it can feel a little bit like we don't know our tail from our forehead. No. So anyway, it just feels like, yeah, it can feel kind of confusing, a little hard, a little like we have to retain these structures that allow us, the discipline of releasing, of not giving up hope, of not thinking that our external reality is everything, or this is always how it's going to be. Kind of it's called transition for a reason, because there's, so it can feel a little bit like the dark before the dawn, or just like we're going through the tunnel. So you have to really attune to your intuition, right? The heart is what can see right now. It's like the way you speak to yourself, the way you take care of yourself. What do you say when the outer picture isn't exactly what you want, or you don't have certainty? Pisces is the magic of uncertainty, and that is pure potential and possibility, but we have to be willing to kind of go through this wormhole without a lot of certainty, especially while it's in retrograde, right? So do your self-care exercises, your meditation, discipline your trust and your faith, do your rituals, engage in magic, connect with your heart, like really tune in to the inner wisdom of your watery depths. Okay.
Right. I like it.
This is LA calling. No entertainment tonight.
I like it a lot. And yeah, everyone's heard my spiel about Saturn and Pisces, I think. But yeah, the hard work of surrender. And now I like this like wormhole analogy. That's, it's very sci-fi.
Yeah.
So then we move into a little bit, let's fast forward since we've talked a lot about that. July 12th, well, actually July 11th, which we're not talking about technically on this video, but July 11th, Venus goes into Leo. And so July 12th, we have Leo at 0 degrees, completely opposite to the degree of Pluto in Aquarius. So yeah. So what that has to do with, just so everyone can be aware on July 12th, just kind of check yourself around relationships. Like, are you getting sort of obsessive? Are you getting a little bit in your head about what other people think about you, especially with Venus and Leo? Venus and Leo wants people to love me, love me, love me. And so this is a very, keeping with the Hollywood theme, this is a little bit Sunset Boulevard-y, where it's kind of like, I'm ready for my close-up now. So, you kind of have to realize that maybe it's in your head a little bit. Not everybody is going to be paying attention to you that day. So just sort of check your relationships and don't overthink things.
Don't be a psycho.
Quickly. Anything else you'd like to add about that day?
You probably have a stalker. Be safe there. But yeah, I mean, Pluto always brings up the shadow, things we're not always aware of. It intensifies things. And so what is it intensifying and bringing up some of the depths that are uncomfortable and triggering around? Yeah, attention, our relationship with attention, and pleasure, and so it can bring up some. It can also open the waves of passion and sort of catharsis, right? If you use Pluto and Venus can be very passionate, but it takes a little. Sometimes Pluto just brings up some shadow work. So
there's an opportunity for some depth conversation and to get some things done internally around your own self-worth and self-esteem. And I think that there's also an opportunity there to make some changes from a, kind of beautifying standpoint. But I would just be, it's not a major transit, but I would just be cautious of getting, making too big of a deal out of anything going on with your bridge group. So, or your pickleball
partner. Oh, your bridge group, yeah. Or your pickleball house.
So, take a break from pickleball that day. Okay, so now here's the real fireworks of the week. And that's why the thumbnail has some fireworks, because Mars is going to be conjuncting Uranus. And then there's this fixed star Algol.
Yeah. Do you say Algol and hold your tongue? Algol.
So Kelly, would you like to illustrate for us or talk a little bit about this kind of explosive energy that's coming up on the 14th and 15th? Or is it the 15th and 16th?
Well, it's actually exact on the 15th, I believe at 26 degrees in Taurus, Mars and Uranus, but then it gets focalized. The moon goes into Scorpio on the 14th. And so even though the transit is exact on the 15th, sometimes it's not until the moon sort of gets it online through a specific aspect that then we see sort of the pinnacle of that other cosmic, the outer transit phenomena, right? So on the 16th, the day after the Republican National Convention, we see the real, pinnacle of that firework.
Actually, it'll be during the Republican.
Yeah. Mars Uranus will still be very much in effect. Yeah. But as far as us personally, sometimes, it might be a day late. That also, don't think it's over. Like, the 15th is over at 2:30. Like it's gonna continue. And
I think even this whole week, I think this is sort of
absolutely,
it's a buildup of energy where we've got kind of this kind of suppression, like almost all week, like there's like this buildup of like suppression and frustration, and then like an explosive energy kind of comes out. So do you want to talk a little bit about
Right.
the symbolism of the different planets that are involved?
Well, so we have Mars, god of war. Mars is about aggression, about advocacy, about passion, about action, about our desires. It can be and it can use sometimes, yes, shadow Mars can be violence, can be recklessness, impulsivity. Uranus is the planet of expecting unexpected, of electricity, of bolts from the blue, things that we didn't see coming. It can be shock and awe, something very abrupt, right? So you get these two kind of go-getters, or very, it's volatile is probably the perfect word for it. And so those two are coming together, and it might be even more volatile because it's in such a peace-loving sign, right? Taurus, we just think of as like simplicity and earth and slowing down, but you have these, when we get these contrasts of energies, Mars and Uranus in Taurus, one of the sort of things we say about Taurus is it takes so long for a Taurus to explode. They're known for their patience. But you put Mars and Uranus in the mix with that symbolism, and it's like, but when they do lose their temper, I always think of Jack Nicholson, like, you can't handle the truth, right? It took so long, and then it's like, boom. It's very, very LA. That's a great love story. A few good men. So yeah, it could be, everyone's kind of predicting this, explosivity, this real sort of something that we can see, something that feels perhaps shocking, that comes out of the blue, is that world events. Again, it could be in your own life. But this, yeah, very sort of edgy energy. We don't know what's around the corner. Yeah, and the day before we have this Pluto moon square, which I feel like just kind of sets the tone when you're saying like we're kind of waiting for it. We're kind of a little bit on edge. It's coming, but it's a lot of energy, right?
Yeah, I think that this is definitely, yeah, I think we're on the precipice. And, there's been so much bad news lately, and there's so many, and I don't necessarily think that's going to stop, but like sometimes we have to tune out the noise, not be apathetic. But I think that, we look at mundane astrology, which has to do with kind of world events and collective what's happening. And so what I want to emphasize here is for us in our individual charts, it's about, being careful not to be too impulsive, like you said. Don't be reckless. There is kind of this, Johnny, what are you rebelling against? Like, what do you got? Like, this just sort of like, I'm going to just take the world, and like, I'm so sick of it all. But, what one individual does, there might be like some explosiveness or arguments, because you're just so frustrated. You can, watch out for being accident prone. So, this is a short transit. But when you look at mundane astrology and you look at the bigger world picture, we do have the conflict going on in, with Hamas in Israel, and we have the Ukraine war still going on. And, I would be very surprised if there's not some really shocking news that day, something very violent. And, whether that's a mass shooting or if that's something to do with the wars. We did talk about the Republican National Convention is that day, or that, that week. It's like the 15th through the 18th. I think I looked it up last time. And so I think there's just this like, that's not a good time to have the Republican National Convention during.
And it's exact on Trump's MC, on his midheaven. His MC is 24 of Taurus, and Mars and Uranus are going to be at 26 of Taurus. So it does not bode too well for him.
No. And I was watching some other astrology podcast, listening to some, and they were talking about how the debate, if you were to pick an astrology, like if you were to pick the astrology for the debate, it was terrible for Biden. But the RNC is really not great for for Trump. So that's just something to keep in mind, that, there has been one shocking news event after the other, but this just really does, seem like there's a potential culmination for something. Like, people are so frustrated, enough is enough. There's kind of this like not thinking things through clearly. So for you in your own lives, the advice I would have is, kind of deep breaths, have a strategy. You can want to be rebellious, and you can want to change things, and you can take positive action with this, but have a strategy. Right? Like, there has to be an escape route. Like, you don't want to run, like I was sort of saying, you don't want to run into a burning building without knowing exactly where you're going. Like, that's not saving anyone if you don't know where your destination is. So really just have a plan. What's your destination? So I think that's really my 2 cents for this week, is just, brace yourself for some shocks and awe, but it doesn't have to be in your life. And all this noise that's going on around us, if we recognize that it's karmic, if we recognize that it's bigger than us, then, we'll get through it. We'll persevere. And it's just like another, up and down.
Yeah. I mean, we've had so much crazy news and upset and disillusionment, and, so it's,
This is
like
part
of
of the shedding of the skin. We're shedding our skin to be something new. We're re-envisioning something new. And sometimes that means big shock. And that means sometimes we need to be, some people need to be shaken.
Yeah.
But I hope it's not.
Maybe a little bit of a bigger shock for Trump than the rest of us. Maybe. I don't know what that is. I'm not saying it's like a
like, who knows?
It could be a health situation.
It could be something impulsive too. Like,
You could trip on the stage.
We have no idea. I mean, that's the thing that, like, we can turn to people that are more psychic than you and I, but as astrologers, we can look at the symbolism, and the symbolism is definitely, definitely sudden shocks, changes, violence. I know more about Algol, but. Oh yeah, and Algol is also there. Algol is a fixed star.
He's actually a brother of Voldemort.
So Algol is a fixed star. I don't do too much with fixed stars, but it has to do with beheading. It's a very sketchy, but not literally necessarily. But that was the other thing is I heard this from Anne Ortley, actually, that Algol has a lot to, like, there's a lot of Algol in the royal family. And so there could be something, if you follow the royals, there could be some shocking news around, Princess Kate or Charles, or you never know. So
maybe they'll bring, decapitation back.
On that note, thank you for joining us, Astrologer's daughter, Kelly. And there is a reason and a season for it all. And the universe is conspiring to help us, even when Uranus and Algol are conjunct. So
totally, yeah.
So all good.
We wish everyone well.
Yeah, we hope nothing really horrible happens, and
it probably won't.
And it probably will, because something horrible happens every day. But
that's the message.
Something horrible happens every day, but something beautiful happens every day too.
That's true. And what you focus on expands.
Expand your energy. What you pay attention to grows. So we are not going to pay attention to terrible people. So anyway,
what grows together goes together. That's from the bear. Just want to say.
I don't even hear what you said. What did you say?
The bear.
I like the bear, but I didn't hear your quote.
What grows together goes together. Since we're on a roll.
Okay. I don't know what she's
some culinary references.
Oh, okay.
Some Hollywood culinary references.
All right. Well, we thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Till next time, stargazers. Bye.